Okay. So let me just like diagram this play real quick. This is just a simple pick and roll. Dario Saric is setting a screen on, I believe, Rajon Rondo. Let's see. Can we get this quality a little bit higher? Probably not. That's Rajon Rondo. That's DeMarcus Cousins, who played a little bit. Boogie Cousins. He is not capable of switching, which is what the Clippers used a lot of versus the Jazz. And what that causes, right, is that it just gets rid of this advantage that Devin Booker is going to get here, right? So you see that? Let's go real quick. So the advantage is that Rajon Rondo has to chase Devin Booker around the screen, right? He chases him around the screen, whatever. DeMarcus Cousins is going to sit back with the idea that he's going to corral him long enough for Rajon Rondo to get back in the play. And by the time Rajon Rondo gets back in the play, hopefully Devin Booker's chance to score is gone. The problem is that he can score literally everywhere, right? Devin Booker can score. He can go to the rim. I mean, let's look up his numbers. Like where was he bad at from? Where did he shoot poorly from? Basketball Reference. It's KZ Okpala for some reason. Don't worry about that. We're looking at Booker. Okay. Where'd he shoot it poorly? Nowhere is the answer. He literally shoots good from everywhere. Like shoots well from everywhere. So at the rim, he shoots like a relative. That's actually not amazing, but it's good enough when you consider that he can also shoot from here and from here and from here and from here. So there's no easy place to guard Devin Booker, right? So when Rajon Rondo goes around this screen, immediately Devin Booker can pull up for three. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he can make that shot. Or he can do what he does here, which is snakes the pick and roll, which is essentially he comes in one way and comes out going the other way. And look at this much space. So this is on DeMarcus Cousins to step up on a much quicker and fleet of foot guy who can just go into this practice shot. Like that contest is nothing. It's basically non-existent for Devin Booker. Devin Booker might miss the shot, but it has literally nothing to do with anything DeMarcus Cousins did. And that's not DeMarcus Cousins' fault. Like it's a bad matchup. And it's going to continue to happen if the Clippers cannot play small, which is a concern if Marcus Morris, who at one point of the game went out injured, he came back, but he's not really the same version of himself. Like they're already stretched thin without Kawhi. They're playing Batum and Morris and Paul George as their small forward, power forward, and center in some combination. Whoever starts at center in the possession doesn't matter because they'll switch it. But when Marcus Morris went out injured, they pretty much run out of options, right? Because the other people on the court, if they want to go small, have to be Rajon Rondo, who has a lot of flaws, Patrick Beverley, who tries hard, but again, still can only do so much. I mean, he's been okay the last few games, right? But he can't switch onto DeAndre Ayton, which is the problem, right? DeAndre Ayton is a monster. DeAndre Ayton, he's not a great player, but he's good, and the specific things he's good at would cause a lot of problems for the Clippers in situations where they have to switch onto him, right? You can't just put any old dude on DeAndre Ayton. He's strong enough and big enough that he can catch the ball and just go up. Now, here's the other thing, right? Like the Clippers on offense, they can create shots. That's not going to be the biggest problem. The Clippers are good defensively, but if they're running traditional pick and roll stuff, they can find plays. The problem here, though, is like DeAndre Ayton, like, yeah, he can find the spaces. He's a problem. If he catches the ball near the rim, he's going up and he's probably going to score because he's probably bigger and stronger than the dudes in front of him. Shout out to Campaign who's yelling here. The other issue is that Chris Paul's not even playing yet. Chris Paul is the pick and roll god, right? I'm pretty sure I've looked up Chris Paul's numbers. In the pick and roll, the shot that's going to be most readily available is going to be like these shots. Right? These like 10 to 16 to 16 to 3-point. And it just so happens that Chris Paul is like not good. He's great at those shots. That's like his ideal possession is he ends up shooting. I mean, obviously he's looking for a pass, but if he doesn't get the pass, like, I mean, look at it, you know, since he turned 32, he shoots, he shoots between 50 to 54% on those shots, right? Like, that's extremely efficient. And the thing is, what's going to happen, right? You're going to have to start helping and leaving guys in the corner that can shoot. You're going to have to leave Mikal Bridges, who is a pretty good shooter and an excellent cutter, and Jay Crowder, who is like, he's no god or anything, but he'll hit his open shots. He'll hit his fair share of shots, right? You can't just leave him either. And if the big man helps too much, DeAndre Ayton, like I said, if he catches the ball under the rim, it's going up, and he's got really good touch around there. So there are a lot of problems for the Clippers in this series that are made worse by not having Kawhi Leonard, obviously. But then on top of that, if Marcus Morris isn't able to be the best version of himself, if he's limited with whatever knee injury or knee swelling it is that he's dealing with, it's going to be a lot of problem for the Clippers to really get enough stops on the Suns, because the Clippers are going to score probably. I mean, I don't know. They should score fine, right? The Suns have a good defense, but they play traditional pick and roll defense, which is at this level, when you get to this good of teams remaining, they're very capable of exploiting that type of defense. It's just too easy to create an advantage. The same way Devin Booker can snake a pick and roll and just find a spot where he's basically taking practice shots, Paul George can do that too, for the most part. He's not Devin Booker. I know people are going to be like, whoa, are you comparing the two? They're different guys, but Paul George is an amazing shooter, right? I know he has he goes hot and cold sometimes, but he is an amazing shooter, right? Like, I know there's the memes because he's had some bad playoff performances. Don't let that confuse you from what he is, right? He's a guy that can shoot the ball. He's shooting 38% for his career from three, and that's at extremely high volume. He doesn't take a lot of middies, actually. He does a pretty good job of this year, 56% of his shots. I'm sorry. Okay, no. So it's 18. So it's a pretty even distribution, actually. But if he gets close to the rim, he's pretty efficient. And if he's taking middies, especially pick and roll middies, as opposed to the shots that he's had to take this year, where it's more ISOing and posting up, which are tougher, he's gonna score those. So they should be able to create advantages, the Clippers, on offense, but not as many as the Clippers. Not as many as the Suns. The Clippers are not going to be able to create as many advantages on offense as the Suns. So if the Suns win this series, they're going to play one of either the Hawks or the Bucks, two teams who also play relatively traditional pick and roll defenses. They're not going to do a lot of switching. The Bucks might try some of it, but they have to play Brook Lopez, right? I don't think right at this point, especially with Dante DiVincenzo being out, they're kind of limited in flexibility that they can play with, right? They could play a lineup with Drew, let's say Connaughton, PJ Tucker, Middleton, and the fucking two-time MVP and two-time DPOY, Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? So if they can play that combination of players, maybe they can give the Suns some trouble. But the problem is, you have to play Brook Lopez because he's one of your better players, right? He's much better than Pat Connaughton, and he's probably much better than PJ Tucker, even with the things that PJ Tucker can do. So he has to get at least 20-something minutes a game. So the Suns they're gonna have it. I mean, I'm talking about the Bucks more because realistically, I think we all injuries can happen, and I guess we all expected the Sixers to win that series too. But you expect the Bucks to be the favorites at the very least, even if the even if the Atlanta Hawks win and advance, it's going to be hard for them to get enough stops. They can create their own advantages. Trae Young's a monster in pick and roll, and on the other end, they play a very traditional pick and roll defense, and I'm sure Trae Young can create a bunch of advantages, but it's going to be really hard for the Suns to just not outscore the Hawks if that matchup were to happen. So I think what we're expecting now, what you really have to expect is Suns and a matchup between the Suns and the Bucks. That should be the favored outcome. I'm not predicting it because I don't know, right? A lot of things can happen. We have no idea where Kawhi Leonard's at, if he's ever going to come back in this series. Seems unlikely given the nature of his injury, but stranger shit has happened before. So yeah, the main point of this is you really have to respect the Suns' chances to win a championship, which is kind of shocking given that they weren't even a playoff team last year. But a lot of the young guys have developed. Mikal Bridges and Devin Booker has gotten a lot better. Obviously, different levels of better, but they've both gotten a lot better. There's Mikal Bridges making a play. Cam Johnson, just another good rotation player, a tall dude that can shoot and works hard defensively. DeAndre Ayton by himself has gotten a lot better, especially as a one-on-one defender. He's really hard to score on. Like if he's guarding you, I mean, I'm sure some quicker guys can get him in isolation and probably trouble him, but he's a problem. And they just have enough, right? They just have enough between like the Mikhail Booker, Ayton, Cameron Payne, and Jay Crowder, Chris Paul, like, you know, Saric, like the more veteran guys. They just have a good mix of like enough talent and enough depth. You know, you don't have to have 10 guys. You just have to have 7, 8 that you trust that can get minutes, and you have, you know, you're not getting destroyed. Whereas the Clippers at this point have to play dudes like Rajon Rondo, who is just very hit or miss. And the problem with Rajon Rondo at this point, especially, it's kind of always been the case, but teams are even better at taking advantage of this stuff now than they were 15 years ago. His weaknesses are just so extreme that smart defenses will pick on him. They'll get him into trouble. They'll make him have to defend in space. One-on-one, he can do a job, but like as a help defender, sometimes he gets a little aggressive, or sometimes he falls asleep. There's just like a lot of issues that make it difficult, right? And they have to play Ivica Zubac, who is a good rim protector, but if you get him in space, it's a lot of trouble. So there's certain matchups for him, but if he has to play 20, 30 minutes a game, the Clippers are in a lot of trouble, and you really have to favor the Suns' ability. I don't want to be like, you know, a reactionary Randy here, just like overreacting to one game, but I expect Chris Paul to be mostly fine when he comes back. I don't think he's going to have too much of a drop-off. And this is a good team, man. They should be able to see out this series. I'm sure the Clippers are going to take a game here or there because they just have that type of offensive like volatility that they could just score 130 in one game and pull out a victory. But you have to favor the Suns. And that's, man, if Chris Paul wins it with this team, I mean, you know, you give a lot of credit to Devin Booker too. He's probably their best player, you would argue, especially offensively. But to adapt to the role, DeAndre Ayton like becoming the player he has, which is, again, you know, you still can't justify him being number one in that draft. There's two players that are just very clearly much better than him, but that's not his fault, right? He did everything in his power. He's working as hard as he can. He still makes mistakes, but you got to respect it, man. You got to respect like the work that's been put in to try to achieve athletic greatness. We'll see if it happens, but it's been really cool to watch, man. So yeah, respect the Suns. I don't really have much to say about the Hawks, Sixers, like, you know. I didn't really watch the game. I was planning on recording it and watching it, but I was just like so disappointed in the result. I haven't even watched it. I'm not interested. And I don't really, right now at this point, I'm not super interested in doing like all the trade Ben Simmons. What can you get for trading Ben Simmons? It's not that interesting to me right now. So yeah. Anyways, deuces.